Good morning, everyone. Again, good to see all of you. And again, we will start with a short mindful breathing meditation exercise, watching the breath mindfully for a few moments. And we can generate good intention. For example, by thinking by us coming here together, to listen and to reflect, contemplate, and to have any discussions. May all of this become cause and conditions to actualize all the lamrim or graduate path realizations within our mind stream. Especially the altruistic intentions of bodhicitta, and so that we can find more peace, more self-confidence, more courageous and inner strength. And so that out of those courageous mind, confident mind, peaceful mind, may we be more better help and benefit other sentient beings. And may it be cause and condition to achieve our highest potential, the fully awakened state, so we can be a greatest benefit to each and every sentient beings. Okay. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create to listen to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soge Sonam La Chanju Batu Dani Dagi Shushe Gide Sonam Dola Penje Sangye Doga Sangye Chodan Soge Sonam Chanju Batu Dagi Shushe Gide Sonam Dola Penje Sangye Doga. So again, welcome back, and thank you for joining this morning. And lovely to see all of you. And for now, quite a while we have been going through this particular important text by Atisha Divankara, and we're in the sections where he talk about the practice of high scope, and within that, cultivating the altruistic mind or attitude of bodhicitta, awakened mind, and having cultivated that, then trying to stabilize it through the aspiring bodhicitta ceremony, and then and then also engaging both sorts of vows, precepts, and then trying to keep those precepts. Once we have taken those precepts, the vows, trying to keep those vows by training in the practice of the Bodhisattva, three Bodhisattvas, three kind of moral discipline. And in terms of three kind of moral discipline, the moral discipline of restraining from misdeeds, through body, speech, and mind that are harmful to any sentient being, whether it's that someone else outside or yourself, and especially the root of all such action, that is the mind, harmful minds, ill will feelings, jealousies, and so forth, because out of those strong greediness or attachments, because due to that, then we tend to engage in the harmful actions through body and speech, as well as the mind. And so we kind of went through that after last week, and then now we are in a verse again. We don't have the verse numbers, but even mine one doesn't show up in the page number. I think maybe it's 7, page number 7, at the very first line. And so next one is the training in the moral discipline of helping or benefiting other sentient beings. So that is the Bodhisattva's moral discipline. One of the moral discipline is, first you try to avoid, in engaging any kind of harmful actions and behavior through any of the three doors. And then not only you try the other that you need to practice or train is then to be able to benefit and help, not only avoid from harming others, but actually helping them and helping and benefiting them. And so that is one of the moral discipline of benefiting or helping other sentient beings. So in relation to that, then here, taking no joy in swiftly attaining enlightenment of myself, I will remain until the very end for the sake of even a single being. So here, cultivating a very strong, courageous mind, inner strength and courage mind, in order to be help and benefit to others. And so therefore, if I have to remain training your mind to generate a very strong, courageous mind, in order to be help and benefit to one sentient being, even if I have to remain in the samsara for a long, long time, I will remain there in order to be benefit to them. Instead of trying to achieve enlightenment quickly for myself, instead of wanting to achieve enlightenment very quickly and having joyful and quickly for myself, rather I will remain as long as it takes in order to be greatest benefit to even for one sentient beings. And so that's a training that the Bodhisattvas engaged in, such courageous mind. For us, and when we cultivate such kind of attitude, such a courageous and very strong mind, then when we encounter, when you have that kind of very broad outlook and such strength and courage, then when we encounter any kind of difficulty, challenges, problems, sufferings, when we're trying to be help and benefit to others, we will not be easily give up. We will not easily give up. We will not be, demoralized, because of your such very strong courages and strength, So it is similar to Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna says in one of his precious garland, as long as one sentient being is not liberated, as long as one sentient being is not liberated, even I achieve enlightenment, I will always remain to be greatest benefit and help to sentient beings. Such kind of training, and also similarly, Shantideva's prayers, as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the suffering or miseries of other sentient beings. And this is similar like that training, and also in one of the great Panchen Lamas in his Lama Chopa, even if I have to remain in the average hell, for eons and eons, in order to liberate one sentient beings. May I never lose my compassions, and may I be able to complete the perfection of perseverance. So these are the bodhisattvas. When they train that mind. And because they train their mind in that, and when you train your mind with that kind of attitude, nothing can knock you down. That is when, His Holiness Dalai Lama has been asked so many questions by so many people over the years. I was just watching recently, there was a kind of meeting between the young leaders, in Dharamsala with His Holiness from all over the world, young people who have gone through a lot of challenges in their own personal life and who who overcame that and who are now a kind of leader in their own countries and many of their questions was more or less similar. How did Dalai Lama, despite facing all these challenges, so much sufferings in his life, around him, hearing the suffering of people every day, someone comes and say, they have these problems, they have going through this. Can you keep in prayers? What is the advice? Can you help? How does he deal with it without being overwhelmed by all this suffering and pain that he hear every day, that he see every day, that he experience in his life? What is the method? How do he keep himself, strong and hopeful and optimistic and not give up and all of that, And he says, every morning when he get up, he practice the bodhicitta mind. Every day he practice and train by reciting the bodhisattva verses. As long as space remain, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the suffering of the sentient beings. He trained that, and that is what he give him that kind of, strong, that give him the strength, inner strength, confidence and courage, so that when you make that train your mind to have that kind of attitude, then you are training your mind to willing to not run away from the problem, but to be in the problems. At the moment, we would like to run away from the problems. If there is a way, escape the problem, if there is a way. But bodhisattvas consciously train their mind. If it helps someone in order to solve someone's problem, even one sentient problem, if they have to be in problem, if they have to be in painful suffering, that they are willing to be there. And when you have that kind of such a strong attitude, then that is why, and then, from Buddhist point of view, when you look from many, many lifetimes, your outlook is much more broader, that even I cannot solve all sentient beings' problem now, I can solve next lifetime. Even I cannot solve next lifetime, I can continue life after life to help, benefit. Life after life, I will try to save and liberate them. So then you don't feel like, if you miss this life to be greatest benefit, that means that you will not be able to benefit others. Do you get it what I mean? At the moment for us, if I cannot help now, then there is this kind of pressure for us to do everything now. Do you get it? Right now, because if I miss this opportunity, I will never get opportunity again. But the bodhisattvas, when you train and have this outlet many lifetime, I will do as much as I can this life, but even I cannot be greatest benefit and solve all sentient beings' problem now in this life, but I will continue making that training and cultivating that attitude, and I will continue to benefit next life, life after life. And I think when you have that kind of much more broader outlook, I think it helps our mind to be a sense of, to help us from completely being, hopeless, and feeling of I'm not good enough, feeling of, I'm not doing enough in that way, and then putting ourselves down and become discouraged and losing the self-confidence and inner strength and so forth, and so I think that kind of outlook and such training, become very, very important. As one of my teachers, Lama Lindu, who used to be the abbot of the Kopan Monastery, and he passed away many years ago, 2012, and a couple of days before he passed away, in Kopan, and Lama Soba was there, Lama Soba being his teachers, and because he was sick, so Lama Soba came to see him, and then his voice was very small, because he had been going through cancer for a while, and you can hear kind of whispering, kind of not so loud. And his last request for his teacher, Guru Lama Soba, was, please bless me. If it's more beneficial for me to be in hell realms, please bless me to be in hell realms. That was his last kind of request to his guru, his teachers. If it is most beneficial and if it's the best for me to remain in hell realm, please bless me to be able to do that. Such is the Bodhisattva's attitude. Such is the Bodhisattva attitude. When you have that kind of, incredible compassions, that kind of inner strength, courageous, nothing can knock down your mind, and so this is what this is training about. Same, this is the way training, and as I mentioned, His Holiness also says that is his main training, and that is what really give him that kind of strong inner strength, courageous, self-confidence, inner peace, and that is what give him the energy to be benefit, even at that age, to be able to give so much, and that is what keep him, as he mentioned, that is what give him sense of hope and not giving up for all the challenges, problem, suffering that he himself, that he see around, that he feel around, and that doesn't make him overwhelmed by the pain and sufferings, when you think of such broad in that way, when you think of the suffering of all sentient beings, the suffering of these human beings that we see in the world is nothing, very small. Are we clear? When you think of the whole suffering of all sentient beings, the suffering of this in this just world is very small. And when you have that kind of inner strength, courage to face the suffering of all sentient beings, to face the suffering of these human beings in this world is very small compared to that relatively. When your mind is such strong courage to experience and to go through the suffering of all sentient beings for not just one lifetime, but for eons and eons. All the problems, suffering that you see, that you feel, is much more lighter in that context when you have that such a big, broader understanding of countless sentient beings and their sufferings, and lot of just, and then in terms of time, for eons, when you have that courage, train your mind to have that courage to be there for eons and eons, as long as it takes. I think that is why His Holiness, he said, with his own experience, that is what really, make him strong, basically, and not being overwhelmed and knocked out. That is why, that while not being overwhelmed, at the same time not closing your mind to the pain. Because we tend to have two things, for us, ordinary, either we become too overwhelmed. And because we become too overwhelmed, the next is to build a kind of wall to protect ourselves. And then we become numb. Then we become numb. So we go in either becoming numb in order to protect ourselves by building that kind of wall to protect ourselves. And then we don't feel others' pain, sufferings, because of that wall. Or when we knock down that wall and when we expose ourselves to the pain of others, then we become overwhelmed. And being very, And so, because we have not trained our mind to have that kind of very broad outlook of the bodhisattvas, and not train our mind to develop that kind of inner strength, the courages, and the self-confidence. And so that is this verse is on that, training your mind. That when you have trained that mind, then and when you have developed through training that mind, when you have cultivated such courageous, very strong attitude, the mind, then you will be not afraid to be help and benefit to others. You will not be afraid to be help and benefit to others. You will be always willing to be help and benefit to others. At the moment, for us, there's a lot of fear. Even sometimes when we want to help, we have a fear. So that stops you from being helpful and benefit to others. And so, and then whenever you get the opportunity, whenever you have any opportunity, when one will be able to be help and benefit to others as much as one can. So that is so. In order to be greatest help and benefit, and to be able to serve others, to be able to be service to others, first we need to train our mind to have that kind of compassion mind, bodhicitta mind, and such courage and strength, And so once we have that mind, then everything, action flow naturally. You don't have to push, If you observe, such as like His Holiness Dalai Lama, such kind actions just flow naturally. He is not trying to create something. It just comes naturally. And that natural flow of that compassion and kind actions, behaviors, comes naturally because of that mind. When you have that mind, bodhicitta, compassionate mind, action will just flow, it will just come naturally. And so first training the mind is important. So that is why this and then the next verse is, training the third bodhisattva's moral discipline of, integrating the virtues, the moral discipline of integrating the virtues, or containing the virtues, So then training your mind in that way. I shall prepare immeasurable, inconceivable realms and will remain in 10 directions for any who call out my name, And so again, training your mind, to be the greatest help and benefit to any sentient beings who see me, who hear me, who touch me, anyone who call, in a good way or bad way, anyone, whether someone is praising you, someone is cursing you, anyone you met, someone who is kind to you or someone who is cruel to you, so anyone you meet in our life after life, because by that we create karmic connections. When we see each other, when we meet with each other, in a good or a bad way, we create karmic connections. And because that karmic connections, then when we try to help in a good way, it has more effect because of that karmic connection. And therefore, training your mind to be the greatest help and benefit to anyone that it come into contact with us in this life and all future life, directly, indirectly, directly, indirectly. Someone we might not have met directly, but someone who has talked about us in bad way or good way. We might not have met them directly, but someone who have had a thought in their mind in positive way or negative way, compassion or anger, whatever. So, so making such prayer, training ourselves in that way, such virtues as, as Lama Tsongkhapa's prayer, anyone who see me, who hear me, who remember me, in a positive or negative way, may they generate good heart, bodhicitta mind, compassion heart, so making such prayer, dedications, cultivating such attitude, training our mind in such way, and so that is Through that, then training our mind to purify, all the negativities within the sentient beings and within the environment, and through, purifying those negativities, and then, cleansing and purifying negativities, and then transforming into something positive. Training to do that, and so that is engaging with that kind of virtues. And then kind of summarizing kind of all these other virtues, all the, having purified all physical and verbal actions, I shall also purify my mental activities and will avoid all that is non-virtues. So in short, trying to purify and cleanse, all the physical and verbal non-virtuous actions, such as, taking the lives of others, stealings, engaging sexual misconduct, verbally lying, engaging in harsh speech, in divisive speech, meaningless, idle gossips, so forth. Also, the root of all these actions, non-virtuous action, the cause and root of those is our mental activities, non-virtuous and mental activities. I shall also purify my mental activities, such as ill will feelings, or anger, hatred feelings, attachment, ignorance, because due to all of those negative mental activities or mental state that we engage physically and verbally is such harmful actions. And so trying to purify them, trying to avoid, trying to cleanse, trying to purify by applying whatever antidote method practice that we can, and will avoid all that is non-virtues, not only those 10, but all other non-virtues. Those 10 are just a kind of gross summarize, but there are, whatever there is any non-virtuous actions, trying to avoid, and instead trying to engage in all the virtuous actions. Those non-virtuous actions are the one that hurts and harms sentient beings, and the virtuous actions are the one that help and benefit, bring happiness to sentient beings. And so trying to engage, and that is the, for the beginner, it's very important to practice the moral discipline of avoiding the misdeeds. So that is for the beginner. Even we cannot help others, at least we try to avoid that hurt and harm others. That is for the beginner. That is, if on top of that, if we can be greatest help, benefit to others, that is wonderful, and we should do that. That should be, in long term, that is what we want to do, to be greatest help and benefit to others, and trying to. But at the very beginning, even we cannot be great help and benefit. At least we try to avoid hurting and harming others. From any of our three doors. From any of our three doors. And that is, avoiding such as all the non-virtuous actions. Those non-virtuous actions are the one that hurt and harms others. Mm. So after that, then next one is training in the Bodhisattva practices, So having cultivated the Bodhicitta mind and then taking the vows and having taken the vows, then engage in the practice to keep those vows and precepts, and then, next is having taken the vows and keep the vows and the precept, observe and keep them purely. Then next is engage in the Bodhisattva, the practice such as its perfections. The main practice of Bodhisattvas is the 6 perfections or 10 perfections and 4 means of gathering and benefiting sentient beings. Okay, so the 6 perfections are, the practice of perfections of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyous effort in virtues, and meditative concentration and wisdom, and on top of that, then when it's 10 perfection, then, the perfection of the method, the perfection of the power, the perfection of the prayer, and the perfection of the exalted wisdom. And when you add those 4, then it's 10 perfection. Sometimes you see 10, mostly it's 6 perfection, but also 6 perfection, and then also sometimes you see 10 perfection. When it's 10 perfection, then we add that. And then there are 4 means of gathering and benefiting disciples or sentient beings, first helping them by giving them, whatever material needs they need, whatever material support they need, and then secondly, through speech, giving them encouragements, praising them when you need to praise them, so that you give them encouragements, uplift their minds, saying supportive and nice, good things, and then, encouraging and inspiring them to the path, the Bodhisattva path, inspiring and encouraging them, not forcing them, but inspiring and encouraging them, and once we try to inspire and encourage them on the path, then not only we try to encourage and inspire them to go on the path, but then, we try to follow the path ourselves, not just encourage someone and then we don't practice ourselves, but we try to practice ourselves. And so those are the 4 means of benefiting the gathering and benefiting the sentient beings. So through those different practice, those different bodhisattva practice one engaging. And here in Atisha's writing, he does not touch on the first 3 perfections, the generosity, and not first the generosity and patience and joyous effort, but he touched on the other 3, the moral discipline, perfection of moral discipline, the perfection of meditative concentration, and perfection of wisdom. So mainly on that. But if you read the lamrim and all other writing, the commentary of this one, the lamrim is commentary of this one, and if you read the lamrims, the commentary, then there would be, the other practice as well, the practice of generosity and the patience and joyous effort in virtues on top of all 3 that is explained here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, maybe since maybe without going details, maybe I can just touch on the subject that is not explained here. You know, so in terms of the bodhisattva practice, once you engage in the, when you cultivate the bodhicitta mind and take the vows, and then what you practice in your everyday life is one of the practice is the practice of generosity. And the practice of generosity, you know, then we can practice the generosity of material things, wealth, you know, when you are able to. We can practice the generosity of, so physically, you know, giving physical things, you know, physical needs, whatever their needs, and when you are able, you know, when you have the resource to give, to share, you know, we try to practice that as much as possible, you know. And then, you know, not only is that physical needs, then also, you know, verbally, you know, speech, generosity, you know, giving, you know, helping them to have confidence, you know, encouraging them, you know, encouraging others when they need to be encouraged, when their mind is low, you know, helping them to uplift their mind, you know, give encouragement. When they do something good, praising them, you know. So that is part of generosity, you know, the practice of generosity, you know, and sharing the knowledge, wisdom, you know, sharing the whatever teachings, knowledge or experience of the teachings, Dhamma practice, you know, whenever there is possible, opportunity to share, opportunity to give. So that's giving of, you know, the practice of generosity through our speech, you know, and then generosity, mental generosity, you know. Being there out of compassion, you know, being there for them, you know, out of true love, compassion, true concern, genuine concern and care, you know, listening when they need to listen, when they need someone to listen, you know, being there just to listen, you know. Sometimes they just need someone to be there, giving your time, you know, giving your time. So, you know, giving the showing and giving the true love, compassion, sense of concern, care, you know, that is generosity, you know, sharing your love, sharing your care, sharing your compassion, sharing your concern, sharing your, you know, affectionate, loving minds, you know. So when we talk of generosity, you know, generosity can be like all the other virtues practice, you know, physical, verbal, mental. We can practice through all of them, through all three doors, you know. For certain individuals, they immediately need is, physical help, support. For some, what they need is, some kind of verbal need and help, something that can kind of help them to have more encouragement, or something that uplift their mind, something someone could encourage something that they are trying to do, And for some, what they need is the emotional, the mental support. Someone who truly care from their mind, not just, but who someone truly love them, someone truly care about them, someone who have true concern for them, someone who have true affections. Um, you know, that is what missing in their life, and that's what they need. And I think in modern time, that seems to be the big things, lack of that, lack of not being able to feel the love, affection, compassion, sense of care, concern. That is where it seems to, a lot of people feel kind of lonely, uncared, unloved, and then they lose, trust and confidence in themselves, trust and confidence in the society, trust and confidence in the humanity, And when they lose such trust, confidence in themselves, in the society, in the humanity, and then they think negative thought come of engage in the various violent activities, I think that's where I think with a lot of the violence come from that, Their mind is disturbed. And their mind is disturbed because they have lost trust in the society, trust in the humanity. And a lot of time they trust in that because, they couldn't feel the love and affections and compassion, true sense of care from others. That was lacking, They feel like there's no one who really liked them. They feel like there's no one who really care about them. They feel like there's no one who really loved them. They feel like there's no one who really has an affection to them, And so, anyway, so that practice of generosity, so that is one that we can practice. And in the scriptures, generally, generally, the Buddha advised, the lay community to practice mainly the practice, of course, all kind of generosity, but mainly the generosity of the material things, and the sanghas, the audience, to practice mainly the practice of sharing the knowledge, the wisdom, the dharma, and in that way they support each others, and that is how they support each others, through the support of the lay community's generosity, they are able to study more, they are able to give more time to study, more time to practice. And through more study and more practice, they are able to develop more experience, spiritual experience, knowledge, and wisdom. And through that, they're gaining whatever knowledge they have gained, whatever experience, then they try to share with the lay communities, and so that is in that way that is how it support each other. That was so anyway. But of course, everyone should practice all three of them whenever possible, and allows, and when there's opportunity to that, and if there's resource to that. And then in terms of practice for patients, the practice of patience is to be able to keep your mind calm, undisturbed by any situations or any things. Okay, that is what the state of patience, the patient mind, is to be able to keep, no matter what others says, no matter how others react, response, no matter what kind of attitude they show, no matter what external situation is, things going right, not right, whether we're creating a lot of obstacles, challenge, and difficulty here or not, whatever that situation, whatever happens, but to be able to keep your mind being not disturbed by those situations, events, actions, behavior, and to be able to keep your mind calm, peaceful, without being disturbed by that. When you are able to do that, then that is the practice of patience. Okay? So when we say we're training to practice patience, that's what we're trying to practice. It's not about, it's not about me not saying anything bad or not showing the expression. It's more about your mental state. Patience is more to the mental state, not the verbal and physical actions or response or not response. It's more because people often get confused, the patience, to take it as more external than internal. If someone says something to me, and if I say something back, it seems like I'm impatient or not patient. Normally, that is our kind of, more physical. But that is not the case. If my mind is disturbed by that person's actions or attitude or behavior or what he or she said, if my mind is disturbed and agitated, even I don't show any physical expressions, even I didn't say anything, still I'm impatient because my mind is impatient. And your mind is impatient because your mind has been agitated and disturbed. On the other hand, someone's mind might not be agitated because of their certain practice. They are able to keep their mind undisturbed, unagitated by that person, to be able to let it go and not take it too personal. At the same time, they might respond. They think it is good to respond so that they don't do that same thing to others. And also it's not good for themselves to behave such way, harmful way. So they might they might have to take a certain stand and do firm and make sure that they don't kind of roll over anyone's. And so you take actions, and still that you responded, you took actions to stop such actions, but it doesn't mean you are not being patient because your mind is undisturbed by that person's behavior or action. Your mind is calm. but still for greater purpose, to help that person and also others. So then, because that person create negative karma by such harmful behavior actions or non-virtuous behavior and actions, and also, they could get in the habit of doing again and to others as well. And so through that understanding, then we take response, or react, or I don't know, react is the right word maybe. Yeah. So taking action, but basically taking actions to stop. But you are still, that person is still patient, and that mind is patient because that person's mind is not disturbed and agitated by that. So we have to really not get mistaken patience being external actions. Instead, we have to understand, when you talk from a Buddhist point of view, when we talk about practicing patience, training your mind to be patient, is more of state of mind. State of mind. So, yeah. We have to learn to, when someone says something bad, not take it too personal, and to be able to let it go, and so not be disturbed by that. One of my teachers, he passed away. One of my main teachers when I was studying in Sera in India, he was airport, for 7 years, and more than 4,000 monks, 4,000 brain, 4,000 views, and the monks are human beings just like all of us. They're not all of them are enlightened. Not all of them are bodhisattvas. They are trying, just like all of us. They are trying. Some of them are a little more successful than others. Some of them are less successful than others. So we have all kind of peoples, and so, so there will, no matter what decision you make, as a leader, you have to make decisions. And there will always be different views how to run the organization, how to improve the education, how to improve the discipline, how to improve the living standards, everything, there is always discussions. Whenever there's problem, how to solve the problems, there's always discussion, and there's always different views, different ideas. And, and sometimes the leader at the final, you have all discussion, at the end, the leader will make the decisions. You have to make decisions as a leader. And when you make a decision, some people will be not happy because they feel they were not heard. They expressed their view, but it was not taken in the account because their view were different views, And so sometimes, they can be upset, some of them can be upset, and some of them can be also, kind of criticized and, not so nice, can be like that, and my teacher always says, he says he listened from here and he let it go from other ears. Doesn't keep it, Listen from here and let it go from the other ears. And I think that is what we should be able to do. If we are able to do that, then we don't take it too personal, and it doesn't, your mind will not disturb. And I think, another abbot, I was told, because I wasn't in meeting, but another abbot, they had a big, I think, meeting and big discussions, and I think some of those who were in the meetings, they were not so respectful, kind, I guess. And so anyway, this meeting finished, and then at the meeting, of course, they were not everyone's there, but some of the peoples. And then disciplinary also there, and he felt bad, for some, not all of them, but few of them, being kind of not so nice and a little bit kind of disrespectful. And then later he went to see the abbot because he had to discuss something. And then he told the abbot, I'm so sorry in the meeting, that some of them were very disrespectful and they were not so nice. And the abbot said, oh, don't worry about that. I already left everything in the meetings. After the meeting is finished, everything gone. So the disciplinary thought maybe the abbot was still kind of, maybe, kind of hurt or whatever, But the abbot was just fine. He said, no, I don't carry it in my house. We have all these discussions, differences, discussion, and I left everything in the meetings. And he is able to do that because of his practice. Without practice, we carry our home. And we carry for days, weeks, and months, years, sometimes lifetime. And that is that kind of ability. And I don't think they have that ability like that, It requires practice. And through practice, they are able to do that and not take it too personal and hold in their heart and their mind. Instead, you have all these people can criticize, say, agree, disagree, all kind of things, but to be able to let it go and not allow your mind to be disturbed and agitated. And that is what it is. That is what it is. And we all also have that same potential to be able to reach that if we train our mind, Unfortunately, I myself carry. I'm unable to live in the meeting itself. I do carry, okay. Maybe I might not carry as long as some people, I might be able to let it go sooner than many others, but sometimes it's hard just to live there wherever when you have that discussion, just live there and not to carry the moment you walk from there, the moment you walk from that room, the moment you walk from whatever that you have the discussion, not to carry and just leave it there. But that is what it is, so that is what the patience is about, And of course, again, now we talk about the patience, being patient to those who try to be, intentionally, unintentionally, who hurt us, our families, friends, harms us, our friends, families, or other sentient beings, through their certain behavior, actions, their attitude, and so forth, when we see that, again, there are many different practices that, you can apply, different analytical meditations, method, that one can apply, mindfulness method, different method that we try to apply those different method and not allow to disturb and agitate your mind, And one of the things, some kind of analytical, like, like those Abbott and my teachers, the way you see is, that everyone who is even they are being kind of a little bit disrespectful, and even they're, quite strong in their opinions, their different opinions, even they're quite strong, even they're trying to push very strongly of their opinions and ideas and so forth, but one way everyone's is trying to do best for the organizations. We might not agree, we might not have different view, and we have strong view on our views, strong on our own view, but everyone has the intention. The intention is the best intention for the organizations. So if you focus on that, the intention instead of the differences, do you get it? We can just focus on, oh, he disagree or she disagree with me, or he or she doesn't listen to my view, he or she doesn't pay attention, or wasn't, just taking consideration of my view and all of that. If we focus on that, then we can be disturbed, agitated, and upset. But if we focus on that, yes, they don't agree with you, they have different view, they have different and sometimes even strong, but the intentions is for the best of the organization. Whether you agree with that or with their opinion, whether you agree with their opinion or not, but the intentions for the best of the organizations. And if you focus on that, then you even appreciate them. They only become very strong, and they are only speaking very strongly because they care about the organizations, because they care about the others, And so when you focus on that, then you don't take it too personal, And so that is one way of kind of, just to give one small example of analytical meditation, that, through that kind of analyzing, through that kind of way of thinking, examining, and then, we direct our mind to focus more on the intention, why the intentions, more than the different views, then, as is taught in the, Shantidevas and many other teachings, we can think about, also that person is engaged in such harmful actions or attitude or behavior because they themselves are controlled by some other energies. They themselves have no control over their own by themselves. They themselves are controlled by another energy that is their own afflictive emotions, delusions. So they have no control for their behavior. They have no control for their attitude. If you really understand that person is acting because they have no total control over their behavior, no control over their own attitude, actions, maybe we might feel more compassion instead of so upset. At the moment, we feel like they have control, but they consciously do that. But if you really look deeply, they have no control. Just like we do, I don't want to hurt anyone. I have no intention of hurting anyone. I have no intention of harming anyone. I make prayers every day. I try to generate a strong intentions not to hurt and harm anyone every day. But despite that, there are times when I might be hurting someone. And because in that moment, I might be ignorant, of some things. My mind might have been undertaken by the ignorance. I might be upset, and the upset mind take over your mind. In that moment, then you have no control. You do things, you say things, and later you regret. And if it's something that you regret, why did you begin to start with? And because, again, because in that moment we lost our mind. In that moment we lost our mind. How do you lose your mind? Because those delusions were more powerful than yourself and your mind in that moment. Anger was more stronger than yourself. Ignorance was more stronger than your other mind and yourself in that moment. So, with that understanding, then we try to, differentiate the persons and person's actions. And that person's actions, harmful actions, is they engage in such harmful actions because they are being overwhelmed and controlled by one of those afflictive emotions that very moment. And so through that, again, we can try to be, less upset, less angry with that person's, less upset, less angry with that person's. Or if possible, not to get upset at all, not to get angry at all, not to get disturbed, not to get our mind disturbed and agitated, And also, in patience, the practice of patience, when we encounter a lot of, obstacles, challenges in our life, whatever those might be, kind of accepting, accepting instead of seeing that something is unwanted that's happening in our life, instead accepting something as a positive. We encounter certain obstacles and we can see, accepting, I'm purifying. It's a positive sign. I'm purifying. I'm cleansing a lot of negative energy. I'm purifying a lot of negative energy. And that is a good sign. The purpose of our practice is to purify all the negative karma, all the negative energy, to gather all the positive energies. And now through experiencing this, I'm purifying and cleansing all these negative energies, all these negativities. And so thereby seeing something as positive instead of something negative. And by seeing as something positive, if you are able to see this as something, sign of good, positive sign, then your mind will not be disturbed, agitated. If I see something as a negative, then when I encounter that, then my mind will be more agitated and disturbed by that. So to be able to train your mind to see something positive instead of negative, And if we again, the outlook of many lifetimes help here. If you don't take the outlook of many lifetimes, then it is hard to see why it is positive sometimes. But if you take from many lifetimes, then it's much more easy to see and understand why it is positive in terms of purifying, the negative karma that otherwise it could throw us in one of the lower rebirth and much more sufferings. And by experiencing here now, we have cleared all those negativities, and therefore, is so through that perspective and through that understanding, sometimes I think what I notice is a lot of people's, when you talk about, whenever we encounter any kind of challenges, suffering, difficulties, obstacles in our life, and the idea of result of negative karma, experiencing is a result of your previous negative karma. There's more tendency to see it as a negative because, I must be a bad person in the past, or I must have done something very bad, There's a way of looking more negative than positive, I'm experiencing what kind of bad thing I must have done in the past. I must be horrible persons. I must have done something bad to experience this. Instead of focusing on positive that is purifying and cleansing, it's like you are being cured of something, even if it's unpleasant at the moment. For example, when I had food poisoning, I've had many experience in India, Nepal, and maybe recently here. I think it's food poisoning, but it could be stomach flu. But when you have to go into the toilet and clean all of that, feels so good. Is a sign of curing or healing. Cleansing. You are cleansing all your body, all the bad things, and so I see something positive when this time, because I tried to go to the bathroom and nothing was coming, and whole gas was in the stomach, and that means that when that doesn't happen, I know that I'm not getting good. I'm not going to get out of this quickly, But having that diarrhea, throwing is unpleasant, but it's a good sign. It's unpleasant, but it's a good sign. Now you are you will get out of that because you are cleaning all of them. So when that happens, I get more happy because I think I'm in a process of that healing, cleaning the whatever that bad things. Similarly, that is what it is, if we are able to see, all this is purifying, cleansing, which is a good sign. If you don't see that part, cleansing and purifying, you just see is a result of previous negative karma, then you have negative thoughts about that, negative feeling towards that. But if you see it's actually cleansing and purifying, then it's a positive sign, it's a good thing. And I think that is where, again, when we see that is where we have to focus our mind on that side more than just saying, it's a result of negative karma. Instead, we see, this is purifications. It's a great purifications. Not just say it, but really feel that. A lot of the Kadamba master and a lot of practitioners, when they come to certain kind of that, they have, in Tibetans, there are many, many different culturally, there are many different sayings, and, when something happens, and then someone will immediately say, that kind of cleared the obstacle for your whole life, whole years. Something happens to yourself or someone, then there is saying, oh, now all the obstacles for this life has been cleared. And so you see something as positive. Of course, it is something unpleasant things happen, but at the same time, if it cleared the obstacle for the whole life, you will be grateful, you will be joyful about that. And so it's all outlook. And so if we try to look that kind of positive outlook, then through that, by looking at that kind of positive outlook, then we can keep our mind calm, peaceful, patient, without being disturbed, agitated. And so that is, practice in relation to not only the sentient being, but in relation to, different, our illness, in relation to, whatever, sometimes certain, maybe we have obstacles in different things, different physical and other different things that we might face. And so through that, then, not being able to accomplish what we want to accomplish, facing a lot of obstacles for what we want to accomplish, what we want to do, so whatever that kind of difficulty, obstacle we face, a lot of time our mind become agitated, frustrated, agitated, disturbed, and we become impatient, and instead, so by seeing all of them as something positive, something cleansing, purifying, for bigger and higher purpose, then, we can keep our mind less agitated, less disturbed, and become more patient and less impatient. And if we can do that, then we find more peace. We find more peace. Okay. And if you have more peace, then also you don't hurt and upset others more, When you are impatient, frustrated, disturbed, agitated, that is when we tend to also hurt and harm others more through our actions. When you are more peaceful and happy, we tend to hurt and harm others less. And so keeping your mind unagitated, peaceful, in that undisturbed, is good for others and good for yourself. It's good for your peace, others' peace. So yeah, that is a little bit on patience. I think maybe we will kind of, I don't know if there's any questions. I don't see any questions here. Okay. Then we can do the dedication if there's no questions.
Thank you, Geshe. Incredible teachings.
May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid and belittled with a mind weighed down by depressions. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and find a repose. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those who weep with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be free. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And again, I also like to request for people who can to please volunteers. I think once we start opening in person, we will definitely need more volunteers. And I think the center has not been open for 2 years and or almost 3 years maybe. And so I think there is even more needs of the volunteers. And so those who can, who have, I think I will request to, especially those who are here, in whatever they can, please support and for the volunteers. I think they do really need volunteers. Okay, thank you. Okay, and I know today there are few of them who are helping there. I can see John there at the center cleaning up. So thank you everyone who are there today and volunteering. And I think we will need more volunteering in different areas. And so, yeah, I would like to request that. Thank you. Okay. Good night. Not good night. Good day.